South by Southwest features film, interactive media, and live music performances. The event attracts artists and industry professionals from all around the world.
Or to start a new podcast or develop something.
The live experience is a big draw.
My favorite part would probably be the photography of the artist. Just getting to be there on stage with them, interact with them, chat with them, come up with cool photo ideas. That was my favorite part.
South by Southwest.
Some students worked at the festival as volunteers.
I would recommend volunteering because it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of experience that comes with it. And as an added bonus, you get to come to the festival without paying thousands of dollars.
Students who are interested in volunteering for South by Southwest or South by Southwest EDU can apply this fall. For more information, visit volunteer.sxsw.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Star Sit Down. My name is Kim Davis Jr., the podcast editor at The Star, and today we have a very special guest. He is a former congressman, the founder of Powered by People, a Texas politics professor at Texas State University. Try saying that 3 times. But I am pleased to welcome Mr. Beto O'Rourke. How are you doing today, Mr. O'Rourke?
Kim, I'm doing good. Please call me Beto. I'm here in El Paso, and I actually just went downtown with my wife to get signed up to become a volunteer deputy registrar so I can help to register voters in El Paso. So I feel good about that. Our kids are in the house doing their distance learning for school, and very thankfully we're all healthy, and so things are good.
Where do you see education and being an educator fitting into like your plans going forward? And do you see yourself potentially coming back to Texas State for next semester?
I would love to. And, to the degree that I'm helpful in sharing this lived experience as a, member of Congress or as a candidate or someone who's involved in politics in Texas and discussions about policy and elections, and in this instance, voting rights, to the degree that that's adding some value to Texas State, and Texas State sees that, I would love to continue to do this. I certainly get a lot out of it. And I mentioned learning from the students, learning from my co-professor, Dr. Mora, but also learning how to better teach and better connect with students in the classroom and better help them achieve what their goals are outside of the classroom. And for many of them, they're beginning to think about running for political office or being involved in a political campaign or getting behind a cause or trying to bring change on a given issue. And it's, for me, it's really exciting to be there for those conversations and in some small way to be helpful as these students start thinking about next steps, especially when it comes to steps that would involve public service or being more civically engaged.
As a country, we pride ourselves in voting for elected officials, and it's your right to vote, and just democracy as a whole. So when that's the idea of being an American, how do you go about the gerrymandering and the attempts to suppress voters and their voices so that way politicians can stay in power?
I wish more people were outraged, frankly, because you're absolutely right. You can't both be purportedly the world's greatest democracy and then effectively and functionally keep so many tens of millions of your fellow Americans out of this democracy, whether it's the racial gerrymander, the 750 polling place closures in Texas concentrated in the fastest growing Black and brown neighborhoods, whether it is the voter ID laws that we discussed earlier, or having one ballot drop-off box per county, including in Harris, where you have more than 4 million people, which makes it nearly impossible for many who depend on that form of voting to participate at all. You can't have it both ways. And you also can't then go out to the rest of the world and preach democracy and preach full political participation when you don't allow it at home and you don't allow it in Texas. And unfortunately, I hate to say this as a proud Texan and someone who so loves this state, but it is harder to register to vote and it is harder to vote in the state of Texas than it is in any other state in the union. We should be first. We should be the easiest in which to vote. We should have the highest level of voter participation and turnout. And whether that ends up electing Republicans or Democrats, that actually doesn't matter as much to me as making sure that we have the right to vote and that we can exercise it. That is missing in Texas right now.
We are running short on time, so I'm going to leave you with 2 questions, and then we'll wrap up. This one is a personal one for me, one that I would love to get your perspective on in terms of the future of this country. There are many Americans now who've seen the cracks in our democracy and are outraged at the lack of health care and the clear voter suppression and just disenfranchisement of certain groups. And they become very bleak and unhopeful about the future of this country and who really has the power and the gain and distrust in our own elections. So what would you, as a proud American, a proud Texan, say to those people who have lost hope in democracy and who think the future isn't as bright as they would like it to be?
I'd tell you that I'd first acknowledge you have every right to be tempted by this despair, given what we're seeing in this country right now. It's nothing to turn your back on or to ignore or to pretend that it doesn't exist or to be naive about how easy or hard it's going to be to fix. This is tough. We have not had a fight for our democracy in like this in your lifetime or in my lifetime. The best antidote, however, to despair is action. If you are outraged, and you should be, and if you're not paying attention. If you're outraged, you've got to channel that into action. I mentioned at the outset of the interview, my wife Amy and I just got back from the county elections department in El Paso, where we signed up to become volunteer deputy registrars. We're going to go out and knock on the doors of our neighbors, find those who are not yet registered, and help them get registered, add them to the rolls, make sure they know the rules to participate and to vote, and that they turn out in the next election. Senate Bill 7 and House Bill 6 have not passed, and they don't have to pass. And to some degree, those legislators hearing your voice, getting your phone call, having you show up personally at their office, that could potentially change the course of this legislation and prevent it from being passed. And then maybe turn this around and start working on expanding access to the franchise and making sure that more of our fellow Texans can vote. I'd also encourage anyone who has the slightest inkling to run for office to start making plans to do it. Now is the time. There'll never be a perfect moment to engage. You'll never have the perfect resume, be the perfect age, have the perfect set of skills or experience. But what you have is the initiative and the resolve to help this country at its moment of truth. And that matters more than anything else, in my opinion. So what I have found is that when I'm in motion, when I'm taking action, when I'm combining the action I take with the action that others are willing to take, you become part of something really powerful. And it's the only way significant change has ever been obtained in this country. So when we think back to John Lewis and Fannie Lou Hamer and other champions of voting rights in this country who forced LBJ, frankly, to sign into law the Voting Rights Act in 1965, we have to remember their persistence and their struggle lasted generations, decades, not just months or years. We have to have that same kind of tenacity and resolve and courage. And I know that we do. It's within us. We just have to stay this course and stay on it until we win.
I went to art school, every parent's nightmare. I went first to Alfred University in New York State and then to Tyler School of Art in Philadelphia. It taught me history, color theory, but not a lot else.
Just went to art school. That's all I knew. All I knew I wanted to do was just do art. I thought I was going to do 2D illustration, painting, that kind of printmaking, photo, that kind of thing. But we had to take a sculpture class. So signed up for a couple different ones: ceramics, woodworking, and glass. Glass was probably the hardest class to get into. Everybody wanted to get into glass. So there was, I think, 85 people trying to sign up for glass, and I was one of the 16 that got in.
I was probably about 14 years old, and my parents took me to Seattle, the Museum of Glass there, and I checked it out and I was like, this is sick. I was like, this is crazy. And then for college, I went to a university that happened to have glass blowing, University of Hawaii, and I took a glass class, and then I fell in love and I just kept going at it, and I graduated in December, and then I got a job here, and I've been working here since January.
Really, once you start working in glass, you don't want to stop, or you quit really fast. So it can be a little intimidating and can try your patience, but if you have the patience, then you just want to keep doing it forever.
I like the fact that it's very immediate. However, you have to be 100% present the entire time. So once you pick up that pipe, you can't put it down. As a potter, you can get halfway through, stop it, throw a wet towel over the thing, go have a cup of coffee, come back, finish your pot. Glass blowing, you can't do that. Once you pick it up, you're 100% present all the way through. That has its own challenges. You know, you can get really tired. You can get, you know, it can be heavy. It's an extremely athletic art form. I always tell the audience it's like dancing with a super hot dance partner who will burn you if you screw up.
Just the material itself, I think it's really mind-blowing, just the things you could do with it, and the way you manipulate it is completely different than any other kind of material.
I love it, and you know, I found a good place to do it, and it's been a steady job, which always helps everything. I haven't had to most glass blowers are usually fairly nomadic. They have to work at a place for a few years, move on to something else, move on to somewhere else. So I've been lucky, really lucky to have nice stability, and I've been able to just work every day, you know, 40 hours a week or more, just being in here making things, playing with fire.
It's an art, not a lot of money comes with being an artist. So I would say that's like the number one thing. I think working with people too, you have to work really well with people when making things, and that's usually a big struggle, to find somebody that you work well with, that you get along with.
I would say the biggest challenge is reinventing yourself. You have to reinvent yourself. You have to keep fresh. You have to stay on top of it.
I think when I first started out, it was a big struggle because not only am I a woman, but I'm pretty small and I'm pretty weak, and everyone would, I guess, just look down upon me as oh, she can't help me because she can't lift anything, she can't do anything. And I guess that made me want to work harder and try to show that I am just as good as a guy in the industry. And I think I've proved myself pretty well. A lot of people that I went to school with eventually would only want me to help them because I was stronger than most of the guys and was able to control the pieces better than some of the guys were. But it's hard being a woman in the industry. I think any kind of industry almost too, all females are looked down upon, that they can't work as hard as guys can.
Just keeping everything going. You know, it's a small business, so you have to, everything depends on sales. So, you know, just being really attentive to everyone that comes in and just working really hard to make sure everyone is happy, everyone that buys things gets something that they love, and everyone that comes in gets to see a nice show while we're doing everything, you know, having a good day or not. So you can be breaking everything you make all day, but you still have to make it a nice show for everybody.
One of the reasons I really love having my own gallery is I can come up with something I may feel very deeply about, and I can put it out, and I listen. If the public's not going for it, I have to change directions because, you know, unfortunately, there's this tug of war between money and creativity. So as I said earlier, I like to come in the morning, and oftentimes the left side and the right side of my brain have an argument. You know, because I want to be this creative artist that does all this really cool stuff, you know, but I've got all these bills to pay. And now I've got 7 families that depend on me. See, I don't consider an employee just an employee. I'm responsible for the whole family. So the decisions I make are vital. You know, if I screw up, a whole family gets unemployed, not just a person. And that's a lot, you know, so I try really hard not to screw up.
There's a lot of studios out there that are, it's someone who just wants to be in the studio and just do their work and not deal with people and be able to make stuff and then just take it out and show it somewhere else. Have other people be their face. We have to do everything, and that I think is really good because it helps for people to, you know, meet the artist, see the process, and really, you know, just kind of educate people on the process and the art in general.
Success, I think, has to do with being too stubborn to fail. You know, if you're gonna, you know, hit a rough spot and just go, I don't want to do this anymore, it's too hard. Well, sorry. You know, believe me, there's plenty of tough times. There's plenty of times I go home and I'm wondering if I'm ever even going to be able to make payroll. You know, but you got to tough it through and you have to do it. And everyone gets paid before you. So, my check's the first to go. It goes a lot.
Take every opportunity you can. You can't learn anything in glass. You can't be better at making things without making them, and you can't make things without failing a lot, breaking a lot of stuff. So you have to kind of be fearless and be patient and just be willing to do the work and, you know, push through the broken glass and the really ugly glass.
Keep trying, keep sticking with it, and don't give up. Because it's hard, but nothing's that hard if you just keep trying. Practice makes perfect.
Sometimes, you know, I come here every day and it's, you know, oh my God, I'm trying to do this. You know, and it's almost like I've developed blinders, you know. And then I'll bring somebody here in my car who's never been here before. And they see the building and they're just like, wow. And for a moment, the blinders fall off and I get to see it for what it is. It really is pretty cool. You know, sometimes I drive by here at night and I'm like, God, you know, I just can't quite believe I pulled it off. You know, there's a lot of reasons that I really shouldn't have been able to pull it off, but I have been able to pull it off. One of the things I always wanted to do was supply a place where anyone can come and see the craft done for free. And you don't have to match a mortgage payment to get something if you want it. You know, just come on out, relax, enjoy yourself. I don't care if you buy anything. I would prefer someone to come here 30, 40 times and finally leave with something they love than ever feel like they're pressured to get anything. You know? It's not about ego. It's not about money. It's about relationships. You know? That's what it's about.